Welcome to Outside Game, the podcast. I am the host with the most, Keith Bullock, joined by my main man, Dom Povia.
Thank you, Mr. Monday Night. And I am joined by my main man. Not really, but we could be. Could be. Smush Parker.
Yes, sir.
NBA, overseas,
All around
D-League,
basketball journeyman.
aspiring referee.
Yes, sir. All of the above.
He's got a clinic, a camp, right? We're going to talk about all that. Smush Parker, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Keith. Thanks for having me, Dom.
Yeah, yo, my first question, man, we were talking a little before. I'm from New York, upstate a little bit. We grow up playing basketball all over New York, but you're from Queens. You're from New York City. Queens?
Correction. Brooklyn.
Damn, I can't do that. You went to high school in Queens.
Yes, sir.
That's where
Yes,
I
sir.
got it twisted.
Everybody gets it twisted.
No. So, you can't do that. I understand that. My bad.
No, but it's all good. I'm five borough thorough.
Oh, yeah.
I like to consider myself five borough thorough.
I like
from
to consider
Brooklyn.
myself the same thing. I ain't even from a borough. You feel me?
From Brooklyn, went to high school in Queens, went to college in the Bronx, did some summer school in Staten Island. I lived in Manhattan and Harlem for a little bit. So
Making your bones on West 4th.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
as a New York hooper, man, which borough had the best hoops?
I'm gonna say Manhattan.
Word.
Manhattan. There was more leagues and opportunities growing up, playing in New York City and Manhattan than there was in any other borough.
Word. What was it? I never played in the cage. I was always intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
We would go down there. Well, in high school, I wasn't intimidated. In high school, you're just gonna go at it.
Mm-hmm.
Could never get on the court because we wouldn't get down there fast enough.
Yeah.
But then opportunities I had when I was in college and might come home for the summer. I was a football player, still played basketball. It's like, nah, Cash is too good. Cash is too good. I don't want to just be rebounding and throwing outlet passes. You know what I'm saying? So how did that mold your game as you took it from high school to college to the levels you played in?
Well, the one thing about West 4th Street is the world famous West 4th
Yes.
Street. Everywhere.
The cage.
Yeah. The best players in New York City, whether you're in Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, the Bronx, Harlem, all the best players traveled down to West 4th Street to play. So we had the competition level was always high.
Right.
So if you were able to play in those games, you were getting better because you was playing against the best from Brooklyn, the best from Queens, the best from Staten Island, the Bronx, Harlem, wherever you was playing against the best.
Right. When you took your game outside of New York and, obviously you went to Idaho State, but not even before, the league and everything, where are some other cats that you played that were from that had some hoop games that surprised you being from New York? Because I know as a young cat being from New York, you thinking, ain't nobody hooping like us.
No, I still think like that.
Right, for sure.
But I was actually surprised at how athletic guys were from Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Guys from the South are super athletic.
Right.
I don't know what's in the food. I don't know what's in the training, but they are athletically long, tall, and just can jump out of the sky. Here in New York, we develop different kind of skills. Dribbling, ball handling, playmaking. Being able to see the floor. But down south guys, they're athletes.
Right.
To athletes,
right.
And that's what surprised me the most. Traveling outside of New York City.
Before we go, let's go back to New York City for a little bit. Who are some of the better players that you play with in the cage, with or against?
That's interesting. When I was growing up and playing basketball, it wasn't about your name. It was about your game.
Right.
That was the era I grew up in.
Yeah.
No one cared about, if your name was, Headache, Tim Giddens, Headache.
Right.
No one cared if your name was Speedy.
Clacks.
No, James Williams.
All right.
The original, above the rim, Speedy.
Oh, yeah.
So I played against a lot of guys growing up, but I didn't know any of their names, and I didn't care to know. It was just all about going out there, playing against the competition, playing against good guys, and then showing these guys that you could play ball at their level.
Right. So look, man. I played AAU basketball. We had a local team that we traveled playing in the tri-state. We play in tournaments in Kingsbridge in the Bronx. We go to different gyms and whatnot. And sometimes we hold our own. We had a guy on our team, Roshmel Jones, who went to Trinity Catholic in Connecticut. Ended up going to UConn. So we played AAU together since 8th grade, ninth grade, and he was doing some things on the basketball court in ninth grade that I've never done in my life to this point. You know what I'm saying? So right then, I knew that I wasn't gonna be no professional basketball player.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? What was it that you did when you were young, man, to kind of build your skills, and when was it that you made the decision, like, look, this is gonna be my sport, and I'm gonna go to college and I'm gonna start my journey with basketball?
Well, my story is kind of unique, wherein I didn't start playing organized league basketball until I was 13. But I've been playing basketball my entire life.
Right.
And I say that to say a lot of guys say that they're street ball players because they play in tournaments and they play and won mixtape tours, and I'm a street ball player. But I'm a product of street ball. Like, I played street ball my entire life in the parks, Tillery Park in Brooklyn, West 4th Street here in Manhattan, and various other parks in Brooklyn and Harlem and Queens and all of that stuff. I'm a product of the streets, basketball in the streets, and when you play in the streets, there's no coaches saying, okay, you're 13 years old, so you have to play with the 13-year-olds, or you're 18, so you have to play with the 18-year-old. No, it's whoever's here, that's who you're playing against. So I grew up playing against guys older than me. Right. So I was always playing against guys who were bigger, stronger, physically bigger than me, and might have had more skills than me at the time, but playing against them at such a young age developed me as a player, so that by the time I got to 13 and I played in my first organized league game, I was just so much better than the 13-year-olds I was playing against. It was no competition because I was used to playing against men, grown 18-year-olds, 19, 20-year-olds. Sure. So I knew then that I actually had a shot at being really, 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 really good.
So my question, the whole and one mixtape, you brought that up, the mixtape era. I came up in the mixtape era, with the hot sauce, you had the Professor, half man, half amazing, all those cats. Those are street ballers, true street ballers. How come their game wasn't maybe able to translate to go on and play that polished game that you have to play in college and the NBA? Because I've played on the court with those guys at charity events, and I've just sat there watching them play. And
listen, I have all respect for those guys. I know those guys, some of those guys personally. I played against them here in New York City. I even grew up, playing with a couple of them in basketball tournaments. They're street ball entertainers.
Got you.
That's not basketball.
Got you.
I'm not knocking
anything.
No.
I know what you're saying.
That's not basketball. You don't see that kind of basketball in college.
Right.
You don't see that kind of well, you might see it now in the NBA. but they're entertainers.
Right.
They play for the crowd. They play for the oohs and the ahs.
Right.
And that's different than a basketball player who actually is, basketball is a chess game.
Right.
Or it was a chess game. It's all about the mind and how you play out the four quarters. How it's about time and possessions. It's about X's and O's, plays, and not just dribbling the ball between your legs 8 or 9 times and wrapping it around your back in somebody's head.
Underneath your shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, I remember who was it? Skip to My Lou made the league.
Yeah.
Could it?
He went to Fresno.
Right. Could it translate?
Could it translate?
If guys, and what would prevent guys from saying, you know what, this is fun, this is nice, I like the reception I get out here in the park, but man, I want to be in the league.
One thing I will say, Kyrie wouldn't be Kyrie if he didn't know the basics of the game.
Right.
If he didn't know the fundamentals of the game.
Right.
He's not out there just, dribbling between his legs 8 or 9 times and staying in one position, and dancing with the basketball and not going anywhere with the ball. He does it so that he gets somewhere.
Right.
It's you could tell he learned the fundamentals first, how to dribble the ball with one hand and control it,
right,
as opposed to just throwing the ball in between your legs and you're losing it 8 or 9 times. No, he actually learned the fundamentals so that he could, start doing, the fancy stuff.
Right.
No, unfortunately, kids see what Kyrie is doing and don't know the work he put in to get there. Now, they're just trying to do his moves and not know why he's doing his moves.
Right. So how was it different, when you went to Idaho,
Mm-hmm.
Southern Idaho, my bad.
CSI.
Thorough. What was it?
Fireborough.
Thorough, heading out to Idaho.
Yeah, Idaho.
Let's talk about the culture shock. How was that?
Man.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, and I want to say before that, I want to talk about the culture shock because what I do notice is a lot of our New York City hoopers might go somewhere, to Idaho or Texas or somewhere totally different than, their thought of maybe Kentucky or Georgetown or whatever it is.
Or even
and
sticking
it's
around
probably
with St. John's and all those
because of grades or whatever the situation is, and then gets discouraged from finishing out and following their dream. What kept you on that track?
Well, I decided to go out to Idaho because I wanted a change.
Right.
I knew it was going to be different than New York City, so that's what, prompted me to go.
Right.
When I got there, I was already expecting a new experience. I didn't know what to expect because I had, never really been outside of New York City.
Right.
But I knew it was going to be different. And a culture shock it was.
Idaho.
I
ain't even never been to Idaho.
But it was a great experience.
Right.
One that I'll never forget. True story, by the way. I actually met people, walking through the mall. I actually met people who hadn't ever seen a black person physically
I believe that
in their life.
I believe that, bro. I believe I've been to some parts of Middle America. I've been. That's not true. But I know that experience.
No, but CSI, I mean, like I said, it was a great experience. The people there when I tell you that they're so passionate about their basketball, that they supported the program there so good,
right,
so well.
So what prompted the switch to Fordham?
We really want to go down this.
We here. It's an outside game.
You really want to go down?
Outside game?
No, actually, what brought me to Fordham is different than why I decided to go to Fordham. I actually got, kicked off my CSI team for being the best player on the team.
How's that work?
Like I said, I didn't. Actually, if you wanted me to go down this line, but I got kicked off the team because at the time, this was back in the 90s. You remember the Tupac Biggie thing? That was East or West.
Right.
Was prevalent then, and on my team there was about 9 guys from California, and I was the only guy from New York City, and I'm just gonna say there was a lot of jealousy.
Okay.
A lot of envy and things like that.
And where are they now?
Damn, so that East Coast, West Coast slide really came to college like that?
I mean, as far as, the West Coast, and the East Coast rivalry and, just that I'm better, we're the better coast. No, I'm the better coast. And then I'm the only one out there and I'm the best player on the team.
Right.
At the time,
you're not letting them get their shine.
No, at the time, I'm not gonna shout the coach's name out, but the coach was like, you know what, it would be better for the team if one player, wasn't involved on the team as opposed to him getting rid of 9 guys, and now that's his program.
Wow.
So it was just like.
So how did that shape you moving forward, man? Like what did that do to you mentally?
Well, it definitely just added fuel to the fire. Growing up here in New York City, also, it's very competitive. If this is the city, only the strong survive.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the streets, so I had the mentality that I was not gonna lose.
Right. We all. It's New York mentality.
I was not gonna lose. There was nobody that was gonna tell me I couldn't do this or I wasn't good enough. And I actually really did have more people here in New York thinking that I couldn't make the NBA. And and it was them. It was those naysayers that actually, gave me the fuel to make it to the places I made it to. I might not be a Smush Parker today if there was more people in my corner than there was that wasn't.
So when you got back home and you did that year at Fordham, you know, you did your thing. Was those naysayers the ones that kind of was like, man, you know what? I'm gonna jump to the NBA right now, or was it you? Would you need some bread, or because my whole thing, man, being a football player that went through the NCAA, we gotta, even if I redshirted, which you know, so I was to school 4.5 years, you know. But if you don't redshirt, you have to be in school for 3 years. Like you have to play for 3 years. And a lot of hoopers now, a lot of cats was just jumping back in those days. They was going from, you know, high school to college and out of the league in 3 years. And that's not really conducive for a way of life. But what do you think, well, for yourself, you obviously can only speak for yourself. What made you make that jump so soon without, you know, trying for them one more year?
Well, it's unfortunate that no more kids in my position or even in my communities don't think more highly of education.
Right.
That's a great school. You had an opportunity there.
Yeah. Fordham is a great educational school. Very you have to be intelligent to get into that school. And not that I didn't have the intelligence or the book savvy or the smarts to get by, but I was born with the basketball.
Right.
You know, my mom played, my dad played, so I was always around the game. And my entire life, I was like, I'm making it to the NBA.
Right.
That was my mindset. I'm making it to the NBA by any means necessary. So when I had the opportunity to go to the NBA, I didn't see anything else. My mindset was I can, physically, I'm not gonna have this, body. I'm not gonna be able to run as fast, jump as high, as I am now. So I could always go back to school.
Right.
I can even take classes, online while I'm in the NBA. So why, pass up this opportunity when I have before me, when I can, do education at any part of my life.
Education aside, from a professional standpoint, would another year at Fordham helped you out in the draft?
It could have.
Yeah.
You never know. You hear players all the time. It could help and it could hurt them.
Right.
The more years you play in college,
more wear on your body.
Yeah.
The more, but it also gives the scouts more time to critique your game and see your weaknesses.
That's like the same thing with Felipe Lopez.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, like he's class that came out in '95. I think he was '94, but yo, you knew who Felipe Lopez was like for forever. You know what I mean? And then he went to St. John's. He had that good year. He should have bounced after that. He would have been Lotto, top 5, but he wanted to come back, and this is a time where you can see it backfire. Obviously, Felipe still got drafted in the first round, but he spent a lot of extra time in St. John's showing loyalty to a program that ain't necessarily gonna look, a program and university that definitely doesn't have any love for you. But as young kids, we don't see that. You know what I mean? We see our vision. We see what we want to do. We see our goals. And, regardless, and like Smush is saying, hindsight, 2020, it could have helped and it may not have helped. And, that's just part of an individual's journey. So I definitely understand when you speak to that, because, man, I saw that hurt me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you made it. You made it to the league. You got there. What was it like when you first got there? You went as a free agent. What is free agent life like as an NBA player? I know it's like as an NFL player because I've seen it. But as an NBA player, what's the difference from when you were a free agent and then when you cracked that lineup and started to get some respect and notoriety around the league?
Well, you know what? I don't never think I cracked that lineup. That's how I feel. I don't think I've ever cracked that lineup. Never had a sense of stability in the league.
Word.
Never had that 4 or 5 year contract,
Word.
multi-million-dollar contract. So I always felt like I had to work.
Word.
I always felt like I was going in to work
Yep.
to keep a job.
Yep.
So for me, it was always a grind. The grind. I'm coming to work today to save my job.
How old were you when you got in the league?
21.
Man,
21.
So as a 21-year-old, the mental, the physical, the off the field stuff, getting your life together as a young man, because at 21, you're still a young. We think we're men because we can legally drink, but at 21, man, I was a junior in college.
Well,
still.
I mean, the difference is you already talked about it. You have 4.5 years of college coming into your league too, and he bounced around literally all around the country to do so. So talk about that lack of stability. It's not just stability in the league. Like your whole journey to get to the league, it kind of probably prepared you for that.
And were you by yourself during that journey?
Oh yeah. Just to backtrack a little bit, I did 1 year of high school basketball.
Oh.
I started high school as a 10th grader. My junior high school had a 9th grade, so I entered my high school as a 10th grader. I went to Washington Irving for art, because I like to draw, so I got into Washington Irving for art. When I was there, the varsity coach had about 8 or 9 varsity players who were seniors at the time, and he told me, he was like, listen, you're good enough to play varsity, but I have 9 seniors who are trying to, make it to college. You're probably not going to get a lot of playing time. So he told me to play JV. Play JV, average 35 on the JV team. And then I transferred schools to Queens, Newtown High School, which was a better basketball program, for public schools. I redshirted my 11th grade year, played my senior year there 1 year as a varsity player. Went to college in Southern Idaho 1 year, played there 1 season. Went to Fordham, played there 1 year. And then I went on to play 6 years in the NBA and 10 years overseas. So by the time I got to the NBA, I was,
still raw.
Yeah, I was.
Who's helping you make those decisions?
I don't know if you guys know him. He passed away, and it's no relation to me. A guy by the name of Rodney Parker.
Okay.
They made a movie after him. Heaven is a Playground.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's about his life.
Right.
He's helped 1,000 basketball players get to the college level here in New York City and around the world. And a lot of guys, Reggie Miller being one big name, Bernard King, make it to the NBA. He's helped them along their journeys, and he met me when I was 16 playing at West 4th Street. And the day I met him was the day that he took me under his wing, and he expanded my game here locally in New York City. So he found me playing at West 4th Street.
Right.
Then he was like, you know what? I know some guys who are playing up in Harlem. I want you to come up to Harlem and play here. So I would follow him up to Harlem, play against those guys, destroy those guys. He was like, you know what? There's another gym over in this in the Bronx. I want you to come. There's some players over here. And he took me from West 4th Street and then branched me out to playing against all these other guys in these other parks and these other gyms and all this stuff. And he laid out a path for me to follow. He told me, he helped me to Newtown. He helped me to CSI. He put me on. He introduced me to Coach Mike Brown, who then brought me to Fordham University, and then, he put me on that path to the NBA. And every step of the way, I just had to show up and play basketball, and that's all I did.
What made you trust him? Like I was, because I know coming, environments we come from, it's hard to trust people, with anything. What made you trust him to know that, he's gonna do right by me?
Well, I just wanted to play basketball. If he was leading me to play basketball, I was all for it. He wasn't, trying to get me to his house or anything. He wasn't trying to get me to, travel out of state.
Right.
He was just, listen, there's some games in the Bronx. There's some guys here, come to the Bronx and play against these guys. All right. I go to the Bronx, play against those guys, watch those guys. He'd be like, okay, I got an NBA workout, forget his name, Coach Arnie. I don't know. He used to have NBA practices and workouts at what college is that? Over here in Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan, right down the street from Fordham.
Manhattan College, maybe.
Was it? No, it wasn't Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
No, but every summer, he brought me to so I'm playing against NBA guys, NBA pro levels as a high school player. Right. So that's what he knew. Guys that I needed to know, or that was going to get me to the path that I needed to go. So that's what helped me to develop a trust in him.
So for the person listening that might have some skepticism about these guys, finding these inner city youth and then kind of steering their careers and what's in it for them, or are they being manipulative or using these guys? It seems like you have a very positive experience. You know, there are some negative experiences out there.
Course.
You know, how do you kind of dismiss and say, you know, this guy's got a track record. He did me right? It's I wasn't exploited. It wasn't anything like that. You know, this is a good guy.
Yeah, definitely a good guy. That definitely wasn't exploited.
Right. I mean, you hear about the AAU stories and steering guys towards sneakers.
What is your thought on that, man? Let me change gears a little bit with the whole AAU. Like these kids, like they're kids in the NBA now, and now it's the whole, you see the workload management, and then I think it was Earl Watkins came out and said, you know, it's not the NBA schedule, it's the vigorous AAU schedule that they play. Whereas, like, in the 90s when we're playing ball, if you're on an AAU team, you play AAU spring, summer, you chill, then you got your regular hoop season. You didn't have to play on the AAU team to be on the school basketball team. But now what they're doing, I don't know if you're familiar, the school basketball team is creating AAU teams that the players have to play on in the spring, in the summer, in order to make the varsity team, which is making these kids one sport athlete. You know what I'm saying? And look, if you're 6'5" at 16, you probably are a hooper, you know what I mean? But there are a lot of kids that are just 5'10", 5'11", 6'1", 6'2", could be 6'5" and have decent basketball skills, but you probably going to university to study calculus or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So what are your thoughts on how the AAU really exploits the young kids today?
You know, it's funny. I wasn't much into the AAU circuit when I was younger. I didn't know much about it, and I still don't know much about it now.
Right.
I hear stories about how they're exploiting, you know, players, and I think it's twofold. I think, you know, AAU teams are using these athletes, you know, to make money.
Right, for sure. You know, already.
But at the same time, it's giving kids a platform to showcase what they can do.
Yeah.
You know, so it's either you worry about, you know, these AAU teams exploiting these young kids and not play, but then you never get seen.
Right.
As a player, like, you know, when I was growing up, it was all about you know, being able to play in the games that, you know, these coaches were going to be at. Like that, for me, that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
That's what I needed. If there was going to be scouts there, I needed to be at that game. So I wasn't worried about, okay, the Long Island Panthers exploiting me because they need a bigger program than Riverside. I was also, you know, benefiting from.
Right, you needed that.
Yeah. So I'm not. It's twofold. Like, you know, these AAU programs want these kids so that they can, you know, make money or be a big program for make a name for themselves. But as a player, I'm like, okay, if the bigger the program is, the bigger stage I'll be able to, you know, showcase my skills.
Right. That makes sense, man. That makes sense. And shoot, back then it wasn't, you know, it definitely wasn't as vigorous. You know, when you got into the NBA, you said you like moved around a lot, but you know, when you finally, you know, maybe got to a point with a little bit of comfortability, is who in the league that, you know, you an older guy, you got there at 21, that kind of dropped some knowledge on you that you listened to, and maybe who in the league, an older guy, dropped some knowledge on you that you kind of wish you listened to, that you think could have helped you out a little bit as you got older within your career?
Well, I was a sponge.
Oh,
you know,
nice.
I was a sponge for the game. Like, growing up, I always watched basketball.
Right.
But when I say watch, I was watching to learn.
Who were some of the players you watched that you might have wanted to mold your game after? If
My
any?
dad.
Word.
My
That's
dad.
dope.
My dad. He's the biggest influence on my game. Had the biggest influence on my game and why I am who I am, and, you know, developed the skills that I developed. It's because he played basketball. He didn't play above a high school level, but he played, you know, in the streets, you know, with his friends. You know, he had a very high basketball IQ. I just studied how he thought the game. You know, but being in the streets and watching those street games, you know, there were a lot of, you know, being in New York City, there's a lot of good players in New York City that don't make it to the NBA or play in college because of discipline or opportunities. So I wasn't watching low-level basketball. So there was a lot to learn. But I say that to say, when I got to the NBA, guys like the veterans on my team, we had a very young team. I think we were the youngest in the league that year. But guys like Ricky Davis, Tricky Ricky. He's a little out there, but he took me under his wing.
He's a respectable player for sure.
We had 2 older veterans on our team, Bimbo Coles, and Tyrone Hill.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I got my second year in the NBA where I got around true veterans. Detroit Pistons, they just won the NBA championship the year before. The Chauncey Billups, the Lindsey Hunters, the Rasheed Wallaces, the Tayshaun Princes, the Rip Hamiltons. Being in that environment, Coach Larry Brown.
That's top to bottom, that's no nonsense.
No nonsense. I mean, it was just a wealth of knowledge on that team.
That's interesting, man. And, let me interrupt real quick because when I got to the league, I got drafted to the Tennessee Titans right after they lost the Super Bowl by a yard, the Music City Miracle, all that. So when I got there, first-round draft pick, I didn't start. It wasn't like, first rounder, you're starting right away. I didn't start. I didn't start for 3 years. You know what I mean? They had me in Tennessee thinking I'm a bust. You know what I'm saying? But I know I could play. But to your point, man, those veterans that I had the Eddie George, the Steve McNair, Bruce Matthews, Frank Wycheck, some other guys that people probably don't even know that play those roles within a locker room on championship teams that kind of, schooled me on how to carry myself for practice, how to carry myself outside the building, how to, maybe take care of the little bit of money I had got so far. You know what I mean? Basically teaching me how to come from college and become a young man that you're going to have to be as you maneuver through life from here on out.
Yes, sir. So,
yeah for sure. That's
And just being in an environment, again, like I said, they had just won an NBA championship. So, of course, the energy and the positivity in that group, in that locker room, in that organization was pretty dope. But being around those savvy veterans, I also had Derek Coleman on the team.
Wow.
I said Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace. Darwin Ham. These are –
that's
8,
the real
9,
NBA.
10, 11,
that's
12 years in the league.
For sure. And that's not common too much anymore.
No,
that's not common too much anymore.
I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to talk about the game now.
No, but that's
definitely different.
And I will, because I'm a basketball fan, and I can also see it from the football locker room when they changed the CBA, the new collective bargaining agreement. I would have been going into year 12, and we thought there was going to be more money for veterans. What they did was they capped it, and it's like, look, we can get 3 players in camp for the cost that it would have Keith Bullock on our team, and if he's not if one of these 3 are gonna play special teams at least, then we can coach them up.
The politics of the game.
Man.
A lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah,
that's
of course.
The other side of the game.
That's what I always say, man. And it's just like in the NBA, because my man Melo, 'cause I'm a Syracuse guy, is going through it now. The league has most players aren't done with the league. The league will always let you know when they're done with you.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of unfortunate, but it's just how the game works.
Yes, sir. That's the politics.
A lot's been talked about your NBA career, but I want to talk about sort of your life and the longevity of your overall career.
Okay.
And you've kind of been all over. What are some of the more memorable overseas? I read about the fireworks in Greece?
Yeah, you've been everywhere,
you've
man.
Been in Mongolia.
From Mongolia to Greece.
This team has enabled you to experience the world, literally.
Yes,
and what are some of the more memorable moments and even some of the lessons you might have learned from, being a foreigner?
What are some things through basketball, bring it all the way to right now, that have you learned about yourself through all these challenges and travels?
Well, basketball has definitely been a portal to the world for me. Like, it's opened doors that I've never even thought possible. I've walked on earth that I didn't even know about growing up. So I've definitely been blessed in that way to just explore. And when I decided to, I left the NBA. I decided to, not fight, with that anymore.
Were you bitter with the NBA for when you left?
I'm not gonna say bitter.
I'm gonna say I say bitter because I feel like a lot of former football players when they leave the NFL, and usually it's not on our terms, they'll be bitter for like a couple years, bitter, mad at it, whatever it is. It's like an old girlfriend that dumped you. You know what I'm saying?
You just described it. You got dumped for 3 younger, cheaper guys.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And give them the finger walking away.
I mean, getting to the NBA was a different experience once I got there from, the NBA. I thought was the NBA growing up. But to get back to the overseas, I experienced a lot of different cultures, that a lot of different people. It's definitely opened my eyes, broadened my mental capacity and thoughts on, views on the world and just people in general. A lot of experiences that I've experienced that I cherish. One, I'm going to say memory. Like you said, you brought up the fireworks. I was playing in a Greek Cup championship game. And, I've never played in a country where the fans were so passionate about their sports other than Greece. Like these Greek fans, they will burn a city down whether you win or lose. But they had to separate, each team's fans because they would fight the whole game. So I'm bringing the ball up in the backcourt, and I see a flare shoot across my head from one side of the arena to the other. And then a whole riot, broke out, and they paused the game for about 2.5 hours. They emptied the arena. We finished the game in an empty arena.
Yo, that's crazy. Like, you're from Brooklyn, where it's wild, but I'm sure you see some wild.
I've seen, listen, there's nowhere in Brooklyn that scares me.
Right. You go over there, it's a little. I feel you.
I've been in countries where we've had to we've had to go to bed early because of bomb threats.
Wow.
I was in Lebanon, when I was just walking down the street, just seeing half buildings blown to pieces. I stayed in hotel rooms where they had bullet holes in the walls. So I've been places.
That's crazy, man. Like, and in the beginning, man, I called you a journeyman because when I started my career, I remember being at practice telling my teammate, man, when it's all said and done, I'd love to be a journeyman. But within football, that means you go to 3 different teams within the country. Like, you're a true traveled, you're a worldly journeyman, and now you're all the way back here, 2019. You're embarking on your new career of going into being a referee within the NBA, which not many former NBA players have done that, man. What kind of, if you what sparked that? Obviously you still love the game, you still want to be around it, and what are your goals for that in the long run?
Okay, the seeds for that were planted way long ago when I was about 13 years old. I told you I played in my first organized basketball league when I was 13. I played in Carmine Recreational Center. They changed it to, something Diablo Center. But it'll always be Carmine to me. Right. But there was a sports organizer by the name of Ray Pagan who passed away recently. But he ran a league every Saturday and Sunday mornings. And before my 13-year-old league, he paid me to come referee the 8, 9, 10-year-old games before my games. So I was refereeing at 13, 14, 15 years old, not knowing that those were the seeds that were going to be planted for, for today. I never went my career thinking about I'm going to be a referee when I retire. I just thought I was going to play basketball forever.
Right, as we all do.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't until, I was 34, my basketball opportunities started to, decline, and, I started to feel my body start to.
Father time.
Yeah. My body started to, react to certain things differently, heal slower. And I was like, I started to give real thought to what's life going to look like after basketball for me.
Right.
Because at the time I was only 34, 35 years old. And I'm thinking, okay, when I retire from basketball, what am I going to do for the next 35 years of my life? So I started to, play, certain things in my head. Do I want to be a coach? No, I don't have the patience to be a coach. I don't have, dealing with all these different personalities and egos. And nope, that's not me. Do I want to be a trainer?
Right. You got to go back to school for that.
Yeah. But I do want to be skills development, coach, whether at the college level or the NBA level. I do, have a lot of, wealth of knowledge up here, as far as, moves and things like that and techniques that I feel like I could be effective at teaching.
And you've already started on that path.
Yes. With my free basketball camps and clinics, I do.
When do you hold those and where are they at?
Well, I hold them through. I partner with the Boys and Girls Club, and wherever they see a need or feel a need for, a celebrity influencer to come in and kind of just be like a mentor to some of the kids, that's where I go. I've done about 13 in the past year. So I'm very grateful for the partnership that I have with the Boys and Girls Club. They've opened their doors for me, and I've been able to use basketball as a platform to give back to get back into these communities and be a big brother type. But I was going down the line of what I wanted to do, and I was like, refereeing. I have a passion for that. And I was like, and I went into the NBA offices while I was still playing, and I told them that I was interested in becoming an NBA official, and they told me, well, if you're seriously thinking about becoming a referee, you have to be fully retired from the game. So for 2 years while I was still playing, I was letting it fester. Is this really what I want to do? Is this really what I want to do? By the time I retired, I was like full speed ahead. This is exactly what I want to do.
What kind of referee do you think you're going to be? And dealing with the personalities in the league that you've seen on the other side.
And the style that the way the game, the style, the
I'm
NBA
going to travel on everything. No, let me stop. I'm joking.
Not but for real.
No, I actually I surprised myself because I'm a player.
Right.
And because I've had interactions with referees, my entire life, I know what upsets me, what I'm comfortable with, how I can respect referees who do this way, or I don't like it when referees do this. So yes, you can, for me, my style, I think it benefits me. And let me start that over. I think I will be a pretty good referee because I have an understanding as a player on how to communicate and not communicate, what's effective and not effective.
Who were some of the better referees when you were playing? Were there anyone?
I don't know names.
No.
I just know that different styles. I know that there are certain referees who feel like they are never wrong. And those kind of referees irritate the hell out of me.
Right. Oh, I know who you're talking about.
There's some referees who you can't approach ever. Those referees are,
they put themselves above the game.
Yeah.
Like they're the gatekeepers.
Yeah, and then, you find those referees who, they respect you as a person. You're human, I'm human. Okay, you know what? If you come to me respectively, I can give you a respectful answer or response. And then, for me, I know I'm a passionate basketball player. I know I've had certain reactions to certain calls, certain situations, and in that moment, I react.
Right.
But I don't mean any disrespect by it to anybody,
of course
the
not.
Players or the refs.
Battle.
Yeah, and certain referees, they don't understand that, and they're quick to react to your reaction.
They probably never even played high school basketball.
So I've actually
They're the managers keeping stats.
I've actually reffed some games this year, and I've seen those reactions, and I'm like, okay, I don't overreact to when they react to certain plays because I understand that passion that they have. So I feel like I'm gonna be a very laid back kind of
understanding.
You
understand, and you've seen the game from a different
Exactly.
perspective. You've been out there, you played it, you've done it. Look, you just have a greater understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I did see that somebody took himself out of the game, Googled your name, and said, "Oh, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about."
Oh yeah, that was one of the stories.
Do you have to pull that card out, or he just pulled it out himself?
No, I didn't pull it out at all. So the story went like this: I made a foul call, and I could tell that he was a foreigner, and I made a foul call. He was upset at the call. He was like, "What do you know about the game of basketball? Like, where did you learn how to play basketball?" And everybody else on the court knew who I was, so they all looked at him like he was crazy. And I guess somebody whispered to him, you know who that is, and he was like, he subbed himself out, and I didn't know that's what he was going to do, but I saw him go to his phone, and he started he looking through his phone, and he subbed himself back in immediately. and came up to me and apologized. He was like, "Okay, Mr. Smush Parker, I'm sorry,
Right.
I didn't mean."
Put some respect on my name.
And every call since then, and every play after that, he was just giving me. He was just so polite, and I find that same level of respect, and from coaches also.
Right.
You know, whenever I go to like I coached a girls' game yesterday. Oh, excuse me, I refereed a girls' game yesterday, and you know, when they see me, they look at me like, "Didn't you play? I think I know you from somewhere." And then it's, all right, you know what? He played in the NBA. That now is a different level of, okay, we have an NBA player roughing out game there.
They feel like they're going to get that good game. Yeah. They're going to get the nice, clean game and whatnot. And anything that you don't do, you can explain from a professional level.
Exactly.
And you're talking about like rep on the court, rep in the stripes, stuff like that. You know, just kind of the disrespect. We talked about it with the last guy that was in here who wasn't an athlete, but he's like, I got to block so many people yelling at. So like, you created a Twitter account, right, to stop that because people were impersonating you. Yeah. You know, dealing with the people like off the court. You're doing a lot of good things, whether it's with kids, with youth, with the apparel, with this next career. Blocking it all out from a mental aspect for a guy that's been around. How do you deal with the noise that comes with today's society?
It's been tough, especially with social media now. There's a lot of people who can make noise, and it can spread. How do I block it out? I just try not to read it. I just try not to think about it.
Right.
Because again, growing up in New York City, you know, playing basketball in the streets, you know, trying to get to a level where not a lot of people can achieve. A lot of people think that you can achieve it. So I've always had naysayers in my ear. You know, I've always heard the naysayers saying, "Oh yeah, he's too small, he's too skinny, he's not strong enough, he's not fast enough. His handle needs more work, his jumper needs more work." So I've been groomed to. Although I've been groomed, I don't like it.
Right,
and it's
right.
hard. I've been groomed, you know, from young to, you know, kind of, you know, be able to handle what I'm going through now. You know, and I've done a lot of hard work in the last 3 years to kind of, you know, rebrand.
Yeah, for sure.
Myself, because I got a pretty bad rap, you know, going up against, you know, going head to head against Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Not that, you know,
but we got that in the last 2 minutes, and you brought it up.
I mean, the story's been told, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's water under the bridge, man.
That's water under the bridge, bro. But again, you know, when you Googled Smush Parker, that was the first thing that came up.
Right. And then you get trolled still.
Yeah. So, and I spent 10 years overseas, so I fell off the face of the earth. There was nothing circulating about Smush Parker, but when you Google Smush Parker, the last thing you read about was the head-to-head battles that I had with Mr. Mr. Bryant. So me being home and retired from basketball, I was just trying to rebrand what people, saw Smush Parker as.
And what is that brand then? What do you want people when they hear Smush Parker? What do you want them to think?
Just
talk to me about the rebrand. Come on.
Yeah, wait. How do you see the rebrand shaping up?
Or ultimately, it's like, hey, look, when people Google my name now, I want them to know I'm a humanitarian, I'm a coach, I'm a ref, I'm what? But what kind of person?
Well, I've always felt like I've been a good person. Sure. Kind-hearted, hard-working. A lot of people don't know the hard work that I had to put in to get to where I've gotten, and to have it, my hard work just erased and not being valued because of one person saying X, Y, and Z about me is disheartening. But I have a passion. I've always been passionate about the game of basketball, and now I have a passion about giving back to the kids in the community, which I do through my nonprofit, Smush Inspires. I want people to see, Smush for who I am now, and not, who somebody has portrayed me to be, back in my younger days. I made mistakes. I'll take, ownership.
Yeah, you've owned up to that. Yeah. You've apologized. You've done everything you could do for that.
Young mind, young thoughts, young words.
We all make mistakes.
But now I'm, I'm just a person trying to use the platform that God gave me and give back to the kids in the community to have them believe in themselves, to inspire those dreams, for them to have dreams, first of all, and to believe that they can achieve them. I know it's unfortunate that a lot of the kids in our communities growing up here in New York City, they grow up without father figures or, older, positive male role models, they see.
Or even things to aspire to.
Yeah. So I use, like I said, I use basketball as a platform to get back into the community through the Boys and Girls Clubs to, kind of give them, be that inspiration to them, that I made it out, so can you.
Right. That's dope.
And now the referee journey.
Right.
My new walk.
I mean, the best part of that is that you're paying your dues now, right? Mm-hmm. You're doing these girls' games, guys' games.
You've been grinding. Used to it,
white collar basketball, I think I saw too, right?
Huh?
Like the white collar.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I do corporate leagues. I do corporate leagues 2-3 games a week.
I mean, but this also kind of mirrors your career, right? Mm. Is that where you're going, Chris?
No, I was gonna say, it goes to everything that you said. To brings it full circle. You know what I'm saying? You started playing basketball in the streets, and then you played 1 year in high school, 1 year at Idaho. You've been going through this adversity. You went to the league. You just talked about that adversity. Then you traveled around the world for 10 years. Now you back. Now it's like, this is me, and this is who you're presenting, and I think that's dope. And I wish you the best of luck on your journey, and I'm definitely best believe I'm gonna bear witness to it.
Thanks a lot.
So Smush, when people want to put some kind words towards you, where should they go?
What, like my social media?
Social website, where can they learn about all these things they're doing?
Well, you can see exactly what I'm doing in the community through my Smush Inspires website. It's smush-inspires.org, O-R-G. I'm also Smush Inspires on Instagram. But my main page is Smush Parker Elite on IG and Facebook. You can see everything that I'm doing, reffing, kids, community work. I was just involved in the NBA Cares coat drive yesterday. You can see pictures of that. But with social media,
how's the league treat you? Like doing stuff like that.
No, they use
supportive.
Me. They're very supportive.
Yeah, that's
very
what's
supportive.
Up. That's dope.
Awesome.
No, as former players, when you can get that support from the leagues that you play in, it makes the transition of life after sports that much easier if you know exactly what you want to do, and obviously you do, and you can go right to them, and they can help you in those areas.
Definitely.
Well, Smush, we didn't want to talk about that other person, so we're not going to. You brought it up because, like I said, I think there's so many more layers to you than just a little slice of the NBA. And so thank you for spending some time and shedding some light. He's Smush Parker. That's Keith Bullock. I'm Don Povia. Until the next show, take care.
Peace.
Later.
Thanks for having me, KD.